rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Apparently, Rumble took away our dancing banana emote, so I may just have to find one so that I can put it into my special little emote category, and we'll see what we can find. Anyway, yeah, we can do whatever. Anyway, we'll try and figure it out. So I've got some interesting development news, or, well, it may not be 100% true, but there's rumors running around that apparently Bongino and Patel both are considering whether or not they're going to continue in their positions. We got more on that here in just a minute. A violent clash between ICE and protesters at a pot farm in California. And, let's see, there's a few other things that are also the Democrats are worried about losing New Jersey for whatever reason. But anyway, all of that in just a moment. But first, let's go with the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight is the NJY Camp Girls Band reciting the pledge. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat, if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with the NJY Youth Camp Band, Girls Band, I should say, in their rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah!
And, of course, I thank you for submitting that version of the pledge to be played here on the program. If you'd like to hear your pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email and send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. I forgot to tell everybody that apparently I'm fired, at least according to 3 Chevy. So this show is the last. No, I'm just kidding. It's not going to be the last show. Unfortunately, you can't fire me. Well, you could stop watching. That would be something. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to our headline sponsor, which tonight is theflagshirt.com. That is theflagshirt, all together, all one word, .com. And right now, they are holding their annual After the 4th sale, after Independence Day, okay, but after the 4th sale, and they are providing you with 10% off site-wide. Use code SUMMER10, that's SUMMER10, in the promo code box at checkout, and you'll get 10% off site-wide on all of their offerings. Also, too, if you order $75 or more of the gear or of their product, they will give you free shipping. So you could order $75 or more, get free shipping, plus 10% off site-wide by using SUMMER10. That's SUMMER10 in the promo code box at checkout in order to get 10% off site-wide. Now, a little trick. If you go and figure out that 10% off isn't over $5, if you figure out that 10% off is not over a $5 discount, well, what you can do to get that $5 discount is go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online. And you will be presented with a different promo code that you can copy and paste into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get $5 off your order. On American Perspective. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, get presented that promo code, grab that promo code, copy and paste it into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com, and you'll get your $5 off. Head on over to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right, I know you guys want your nanners. If you guys can find a dancing nanner and I can shrink it down so that it can go in the emote box, I will go ahead and do that for you. Or maybe if I find it. Anyway. Well, some violent leftists attacked federal agents during some immigration raids at a California pot farm. And by the way, one person have apparently fired a weapon, appeared to have fired a weapon at federal agents. So these federal agents, they had a search warrant. It was a suspected immigration and also labor violations, both of them, in a Ventura County, California pot farm. They were met by hundreds of protesters. This was yesterday, including the one man who in the video has apparently had a weapon in his hand and appeared to be firing it at them. Now, the feds conducted the raids at two Glass House Farms, which is a state-licensed marijuana facility that is allegedly employing illegal immigrants, including children. And this is part of the problem, okay? So, illegal aliens and illegal child labor. Yeah, apparently the standoff, so the after getting word of the immigration operations, approximately 60 miles northwest of downtown Los Angeles, about 500 protesters showed up to confront the federal authorities. Los Angeles Times reported. The other farm, located in Carpinteria, about 35 miles up the coast, where a smaller group of protesters gathered. And the protest turned violent. They had agents were leaving the farm with detainees, and they had rocks thrown at their vehicles. Donald Trump put out a post on Truth Social here not too long ago. He was visiting Texas in the flood area. Anyway, but here is an image. Go ahead and bring this up. So here is the image of the gentleman who appeared to be, he's in the white circle there. He apparently had a gun and was at least pointing it at the officers. I don't know if he actually fired it or not. But yeah. Anyway, there was crowds of people. They were dispersed with tear gas and those kinds of things, and so it was a bit of a mess. Now, reportedly, there was one farm worker that was injured and sent to the hospital during this altercation. That same individual has preliminarily been pointed out that he has died. Unconfirmed reports. I don't know for sure if that is true or not. I'm sure we'll find out by tomorrow. And also other people were taken to the hospital. 3 people were treated at the scene. It's unclear whether or not any federal authorities were among those injured. And So yeah, they basically they executed this search warrant at the farm. Agents have already arrested multiple individuals for impeding the operation. Because remember, like I told you, if you impede these folks, they will arrest you. And because you'll be arrested and charged with a federal offense by doing that. So, so there you go. Here's a few other photos that came from it. Came from the events of the day. So, yeah. Apparently, there might be a $50,000 reward for information, or award or reward, I should say, for information leading to the conviction of that individual who fired their pistol at him. So, yeah. Anyway. So, there you go. It was bound to get violent at one point, for sure. Well, immigration obviously has been a topic in the news for quite some time, and apparently also too, Americans, even people in the middle and on the left, have all been discussing and talking about this whole thing, and are behind Trump in all these immigration stuff. So the Democrats have sort of shifted, especially with the catastrophic floods in Texas, as well as some of the other storms. Apparently there were a couple other storms, or maybe even the same storm, that have had, 1 in 1,000 years kind of a, 1 in 1,000 years kind of an effect. And so the Democrats have sort of shifted, and they are talking again about climate change. Well, Harry Enton on CNN had a poll, or produced the results of a poll. And let's just say Americans really are not all that interested in climate change. Here, take a listen.
Are Americans afraid of climate change? And the answer is Americans aren't afraid of climate change. Climate activists have not successfully made the case to the American people. I want you to take a look here. Greatly worried about climate change. We have data going all the way back since 1989. Look at that. It was 35%. 2000, 40%. 2020, 46%. And 2025, 40%, which is the exact same percentage as back in 2000. Despite all of these horrible weather events, the percentage of Americans who are greatly worried about climate change has stayed pretty gosh darn consistent, which kind of boggles the mind a little bit. Granted, everything that we see on our television screens, our computer screens, the hurricanes, tornadoes, the flooding, but yet greatly worried about climate change, 40% in 2025, the exact same percentage as back in 2000.
Well, the one part that Harry Enton seems to miss is the fact that climate change and all of its associated sycophantic followers the climate change folks haven't been able to prove that climate change exists, at least human affected climate change. The reason why I say that, of course, is because, we have conflicting reports. We have conflicting data. The weather models, by the way, they are essentially, and I can tell you, even like with these machine learning models that drive AI, if you put garbage data in, you're going to get garbage data out. And so what a lot of regular Americans who have a little bit of common sense, logic, and reason on their shoulders are saying, well, guess what, folks? You really need to show us how we are actually affecting climate change. Because, again, there was all this stuff about, the Antarctic ice is melting. And then here it is 10 years later, the Antarctic ice gained millions of square feet. Sort of like the whole idea with eggs, Sort of like the whole idea with eggs. Eggs have been bad for you, eggs bad cholesterol, then all of a sudden eggs are good for you, and then all of a sudden eggs are bad, and then eggs are good. All this does is this just demonstrates that none of the science is actually 100% settled. And also what you need to understand too is that there are plenty of climate scientists who are refuting and demonstrating through actual data that this stuff is not going on. And when you have people like AOC, or you have people like Greta Thunberg, or you have people like Al Gore saying, oh my God, the seas are going to rise. They're going to rise. And yet all these rich Democrat morons are going and buying beachfront property like the Obamas did. It tends to cut into the narrative and demonstrate that, well, guess what? Even the people who claim that they know, that, they say it, they know within their hearts that climate change is real, that the humans are affecting the global planet. Yeah. And then they go and through their actions, they go and they buy these, so they go and they buy these mansions and stuff on the beachfront. Or you have photos that go back to, 100 years back, and you compare them with photos of today, and you see of like national monuments. I mean, we're talking about, recognizable places, and you see that the sea levels haven't actually changed at all in the 100 years. And yet, for whatever reason, places like Florida were going to be flooded out within 10 or 15 years. Or, like I told you last night, while I was in elementary school, we're going to run out of oil. This was in the late 70s. We're going to run out of oil. It hasn't happened yet. So the challenge here is not whether or not the science is valid or not. The challenge here is the fact that you guys don't know what you don't know, and you're making assumptions based on things that you think you know, but in reality, you may not know. Same thing goes with the whole idea of the planet. The planet itself. Oh, carbon dioxide is that's the killer gas. And yet the planet is the greenest that it's been for a while. So, yeah. Anyway, science is ever moving and science is ever changing, and not being able to question the science makes you wonder what's going on here. And then also, too, don't forget that everything that these people have been talking about in terms of all the green initiatives and all the science, that climate science that's involved, it all is wrapped around one little thing, and that is a money venture. Oh, you have to get rid of fossil fuels. Go to our solar panels or our wind farms or whatever. And yet the actual data on all of that demonstrates that, one, it's less reliable. Two, it's also worse. It's also worse for the environment in the overall grand scheme of things, for the most part, than just using petroleum products. So, again, and by the way, too, there was a university that put up some air scrubbers, apparently, in the desert because of the lack of trees. And so they were saying, I saw this article and I'm paraphrasing here, but there was apparently these air scrubbers that were placed along the side of a road, or a road along the way. And so these air scrubbers take the place of trees and actually scrub the air cleaner than the actual trees themselves, or at least that's the thought. And I just sat there and thought to myself, well, if that's the case, then why isn't that the solution for all of this CO2 that you're saying everything is going to waste instead of going to all this clean air, or not clean air, but all this green energy stuff. Why don't we just clean the air again? So anyway, enough said for that. Well, Trump announced, because Canada is being, resistant. That's the best way that I can put it. So Trump has announced a 35% tariff on all Canadian imports starting on August 1st. This was yesterday. He revealed that the new tariffs would target Canadian goods entering the U.S., framing the move in a response to Canada's retaliation and persistent trade obstacles. In the official letter, he explained the reasons behind the sharp increase in tariffs, accusing Canada of not cooperating on critical matters, especially the flow of fentanyl into the U.S., and engaging in unfair trade practices. Trump emphasized that the U.S. would maintain its trade relationship with Canada, but under the new, stricter terms. So, he's, again, trying to tell Canada, you need to wake up and work with us. So, Anyway, the letter also pointed out that, as you will recall, the United States imposed tariffs on Canada to deal with our nation's fentanyl crisis, which is caused in part by Canada's failure to stop the drugs from pouring into our country. He cautioned Canada that any attempt to impose retaliatory tariffs would be met with additional tariff increases from the United States. And he basically said that whatever number you choose to raise your tariffs by, it will be added onto the 35% that we are currently charging, or that we will charge on August 1st. So, yeah. He pointed out the high tariffs, Canada's high tariffs on U.S. dairy exports, calling them extraordinary, which are as high as 400%. Yeah. And he blamed the nation, meaning Canada, for exacerbating the U.S. trade deficit, and stated that American dairy farmers often lack access to the Canadian market. Well, speaking of tariffs, good news came out today. According to new data from the Treasury Department, all this tariff stuff, honestly, I mean, this is kind of cool. This in the Epic Times. Tariff windfall drives a surprise $27 billion U.S. budget surplus in June. Oh, wait a minute. We pulled in so many tariffs that we now have a $27 billion surplus for June? I thought those tariffs, weren't going to do anything and cause prices to go all kinds of sky high and have all kinds of issues and things like, it's going to crush our economy. And yet now we have apparently a budget surplus from the month of June? This is interesting. This is an interesting development. So after running $316 billion of a deficit in May, the government actually recorded a surplus of just over $27 billion last month, according to data released July 11th, which is today, by the Treasury Department. The tariff windfall helped narrow the fiscal year-to-date deficit to $1.34 trillion, which is a slight 1% improvement from the same period last year. By contrast, June of 2024 saw a $71 billion deficit. So a key driver in this improved balance was a record-breaking surge in customs duties. Treasury data released on Friday show that tariff collections soared to $27 billion in June alone, pushing total tariff revenues since October to $108 billion, the highest ever recorded for the first 9 months of a fiscal year. Now, keep in mind, fiscal year, okay, runs from October to September. That's the fiscal year. So, yeah. I thought all this was going to, tank our economy. We were going to end up in a recession and all kinds of things that were going to happen here. Yeah, and that hasn't presented itself. June's haul marks a significant jump from May's prior record of $22 billion and was about 93% higher than the $56 billion, or sorry. Oh, that's right, $56 billion collected during the same 9-month span the previous year. So, okay. So far in July, just for a factor for July itself, we're not even like a full 2 weeks into July yet, and customs duties have already added $2.4 billion to the federal coffers, according to daily Treasury figures. So, yeah, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has predicted even higher tariff revenues in the months ahead. Speaking at a July 8th White House cabinet meeting, he said the United States is on track to collect $300 billion by the end of calendar year 2025. Noting that the major tariffs imposed under the Trump administration did not start until the second quarter. Yeah, folks. I mean, I think Trump's got something on this. He's got some idea on all of this that, yeah, this might be a good thing. Might be a good thing. All right. So let's get into the conversation about, the title conversation. So, here's the thing. A report came out from the Daily Wire operative, Mary Margaret Olohan. She is the Daily Wire's White House reporter. She posted on X that there was a source close to Dan Bongino that told her that he basically is saying at the moment it's either him or Pam Bondi, and that he is not going to stay with the FBI if Pam Bondi stays at the DOJ. Now, all of this has come from essentially an apparent dust-up that occurred with regards to Pam Bondi and her handling of the Epstein files. And this is, internal tensions, apparently, that is related to the Epstein files and the release. But according to a CNN report, Bongino's possible resignation is tied to a confrontation involving Attorney General Pam Bondi and other senior officials at the Justice Department and the White House. CNN reported that the disagreement stemmed from a meeting involving Bongino, Patel, and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. During the meeting, allegedly, Bondi confronted Bongino and Patel over a story that circulated suggesting that the FBI had pushed for more Epstein-related information to be released, but that was blocked by the Department of Justice. The implication of that particular report prompted frustration inside the DOJ, according to the CNN report. Now, let's just be honest and be completely open and honest about this. A lot of this is coming from places like CNN and Mediaite. The only one at this point that I would say is, on the up and up would be Mary Margaret Olohan. So if she is saying that there is sources that are talking about this, there is some meat on this bone. I wouldn't necessarily bring it to you if it were just CNN and Mediaite that were saying it, but yeah. Bongino reportedly took today off. And he took today off mainly just to, I guess, consider his options. So it's very likely that if he decides to resign, he may come back onto the air, and Bongino, his podcast might pick back up again. Now, the surprise is the fact that Kash Patel is also reportedly doing the same thing. Not that he took the day off, but that he's considering leaving the FBI because of Pam Bondi. Now, you know, I pointed out to you with this whole Epstein files thing that you have to take the situation with a grain of salt. Meaning that you have to decide whether or not the individuals that are involved are actually involved, and whether or not you trust the people that are there, whether it's Pam Bondi or Dan Bongino or Kash Patel. So because we don't necessarily know the content of what is that discussion or dust-up might be, that what it could be is it could just basically be a matter of conflict in terms of how it was handled. Because as I pointed out, Pam Bondi basically sort of stepped in it when she, number one, released binders to all these podcasters and influencers and everything else that didn't necessarily provide any new information. And then going on to a nationally televised program that essentially pointed out that, hey, do you have, and literally the question was asked, do you have the Epstein list? And rather than clarifying her answer by saying, I have the Epstein files on my desk, and there is and I haven't reviewed them, so I don't honestly know what could be in those files, she shortened it and said, yes, the Epstein list is on my desk. And then, of course, backtracked that when they came out with the DOJ FBI report, 2-page report, that essentially said that Epstein killed himself by suicide and that there was no Epstein list. Now, of course, these kinds of mistakes and errors, unforced errors, by the way, create all sorts of conspiracy theories that can be running around about the entire list and everything else. Now, nobody has actually seen any indication realistically that Epstein was a foreign operative, B, a high-class pimp for hire, and things of that nature. Now, they did go through the Epstein files. They did go through hours of supposed video that was on tap, but they're not releasing some of those videos or most of that video because of the fact that there are underage victims of Epstein's sick obsession. Here's the facts. We know that Epstein lived a life of luxury and loved to flaunt the people that he was hanging out with. We know that Epstein had a fondness for young women. We know that Ghislaine Maxwell assisted Epstein in acquiring these young women. We know that Ghislaine Maxwell has been convicted of acquiring some young women for Epstein. However, the case that she is and the crimes that she is convicted of have nothing and no evidence that was presented during her trial that showed that she actually pawned these off on several rich people. We know that there were a few accusers who have accused a few high-profile people. One of them happens to be Donald Trump. We also know that Donald Trump accusation fell apart during Ghislaine Maxwell's trial because there were absolutely zero witnesses that said that Donald Trump visited the island, was anywhere near when the events that they had were going on. All they really had was hearsay that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were like close friends, which is what Jeffrey Epstein basically says. Okay. So we don't really have very much in the way of evidence in terms of all of this. And the only evidence at this point that indicates that potentially Epstein may not have killed himself by suicide is 1 minute missing from a tape of the hallway outside of his cell. Now, that 1 minute missing has reportedly been explained, but yet not yet confirmed, that 1 minute missing is a system-wide issue for that particular video system, and that it resets every single night at midnight. I'm going to tell you that is a probability. I know, because I've worked with systems that are like that. So we have a lot of unanswered questions. Now you add to all of this, on top of this, the demonstration of the frustration and the internal strife between the top two law enforcement officers in the FBI and the Attorney General. And now you've got another fuel to the fire for potential conspiracy theorists who could run around and be saying stuff like, oh yeah, Epstein really did kill himself. Dan Bongino and Cash Patel were being told to lie, and so on and so forth. The thing about it is that, and this is again, and I've said this over and over again, first of all, if Dan Bongino and Cash Patel decide to resign, first of all, that's on them. That's their choices. Obviously, they're probably, regardless, they're probably going to be told you can't speak about this. So we'll never actually, I'm assuming we'll never get the answer. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Dan Bongino has pointed out multiple times that he left the Secret Service because of differences in his ethics, morals, and standards and integrity versus what was going on in the organization. And he never has come out with the actual truth. So the fact that he is even considering this makes me think that there is something that he was asked to do, and he literally is like, no, I'm not going to do it. The second thing that everybody needs to understand, and this is, I still, nobody has been able to necessarily say, hey, you know, this is, that doesn't seem to make any sense whatsoever, is if on the off chance that Donald Trump showed up on any kind of document that definitively proved that he was at the island or that he participated in any kind of illegal activity with an underage girl, considering the last 4 years of the administration, the Biden administration, and how they went after Donald Trump even before he got into office in the first time. So let's even go so far, because all of this is stemming back from like 2015, 2016. Even if Donald Trump were on that list, it would have been plastered everywhere by now. 8 years later, and especially with a 4-year total Democrat. I mean, look at what the FBI did to him. They tried to get him on a Russian collusion hoax. They tried to get him on classified documents. They tried to get him on all these other things, yet they did not use what could potentially have been the greatest weapon within their arsenal. I find that incredulous to believe. However, the flip side has some credence. And by that, I mean that Joe Biden or some other high-powered Democrats being on some sort of a list is entirely possible. And that over the course of the previous administration, they got rid of all of that evidence. Now, that is a plausible explanation as to why there is no quote-unquote Epstein list. But I can't prove a counterfactual, so I'm not going to be able to say anything or even prove that, hey, Prove the existence of something that doesn't exist today. Well, I can't. There's no evidence. There's nothing left. There's nothing available at this point in time that necessarily proves the fact that first of all, that the list existed, unless Kash Patel and Dan Bongino actually know more than what they are allowed to talk about. And that could very well be possibly the crux of the tension, the internal tension that this is going on, because I personally cannot believe that as much as Patel and Bongino railed against the whole Epstein files and the Epstein lists and everything else that they had going on, that they themselves would keep quiet and be a part of a cover-up. I just don't see it. I just don't see how it could be done. Now, if they suspect that the Epstein list was tampered with and destroyed because of the previous administration, I could see where that could be a bit of a challenge by them being told, you just have to say there is no Epstein list. And notice that they didn't really explain as to why there was no Epstein list. They just simply said there was no Epstein list, which is a true fact. There was no Epstein list that they could essentially say without necessarily impugning their integrity. They just don't tell you why there's no Epstein list, which that in and of itself could be part of the challenge with that whole thing. So I think there's more to it. I think there's definitely more to it, and hopefully we'll eventually get to the real truth of the matter. But I think, honestly, this is going to be a blow. No matter what happens, it is going to be a blow to the administration that has been racking up a bunch of wins, especially considering how staunch Dan Bongino has been and Kash Patel has been in Trump's corner. To have something like this pop up is definitely irregular and worth further information and consideration. So, yeah. All right, let's get to, hey, this is a new one. This is a new sponsor. Well, a new ad, not necessarily a sponsor. Anyway, this used to be a world conquered and ruled by great men of action. The Greeks, the Romans, the Babylonians. So why are we so lame? Why is it hard to even get out of bed sometimes? The answer is simple. The modern world fills us with chemicals and takes our freedom. That's what Deep State Detox is here to fix. It's a new supplement for patriots, for freedom lovers, for anyone who wants to reclaim their bioessence purity. It's designed to help promote cellular repair, invigorate the subconscious, and fire up your body's natural renewal mechanisms. And it's filled with all kinds of stuff Big Pharma and the government don't want you to know about. No heavy metals from government-backed industries lining your colon. Break free of the Wi-Fi and 5G signals beamed into your brain. Don't let seed oils from government-subsidized corporate forms turn you into a zombie. You don't have to consent to taking their pills. It's your right to take these capsules and embrace health freedom over mind control. Deep State Detox. Interesting. They don't even tell you where to go. I mean, apparently it's, there it is. DeepStateDetox.com is where you can go and check this out. DeepStateDetox.com. And, yeah. Anyway. All right, there you go. That was a new one. All right. Well, the Democrats have, let's just be honest. Democrats don't really change. They say they change. They say they're going to change. They say they're going to do things. No, they're not. So a congresswoman named of Mickey Sherrill, Sherrill, won the nomination for the New Jersey governor in the blue state's recent primary. Now, unfortunately, she basically isn't really a change from all the other blue state governors that have been out there. She wants offshore wind farms off of New Jersey coasts. Yeah. She's been silent, apparently, on this offshore energy amid the campaign, despite past wind energy supports. She supported it. She obviously loves Joe Biden. Yeah, here's a picture of her and Joe Biden. So, yeah. She also is one of those people, which this one I've never understood. She's also one of those people who basically becomes a freshman congressperson, hits DC, and automatically like triples their net worth. This stuff, I just don't understand. I just don't understand how people can do this. She apparently was joined Congress in 2019, and her approximate net worth was $3 million, and then in 2025 it went to $10 million. How can you do that on a salary that's $174,000 a year? But anyway. So yeah, so this person here, she also was under investigation, apparently, for stock trades linked to congressional committees. Well, there's your explanation of your money. She apparently reported had a failure to disclose up to $350,000 in stock sales and multiple trades tied to her committee assignments. She is really different. She's different than all of the other Democrats. Yeah. Well, New Jersey itself, the Democrats are starting to sound the alarm, apparently, according to PJ Media. They're basically saying that the party leaders are dumping millions into the governor's race in a desperate bid to stave off an electoral disaster. Democrats are terrified that their grip on New Jersey is slipping. If you ever have any kind of sense or want to figure out what the Democrats are afraid of, just look at where their money is flowing to, especially when it comes to races. Whether it's Senate races, congressional races, or governorship races, you can always tell where they're worried because they'll start flowing money into a state if they think there's even a remote possibility that they're going to lose a grip on it. And doing something like this in a deep blue state, reliably deep blue state in national elections, yeah, that's an indication that their internal polling is kind of giving them an idea that this is probably not what you're thinking about, that they might be losing their stranglehold grip on a particular state or a particular race or whatever. So also don't forget that part of the reason why they're potentially running all of this money in there is that activist Scott Presler, his grassroots efforts that he successfully flipped Pennsylvania back to Trump, he's now focusing on New Jersey, aiming to replicate that flip. So they've got momentum building in New Jersey. They have GOP is narrowing registration gaps thanks to Scott Presler's push. And now you have a Democrat National Committee that's a little nervous about what's going on. And having a government breakthrough in 2025 Yeah, or even a red flip in the next presidential election, for New Jersey might be an amazing thing. You'll also notice that the Republicans are sensing an opportunity here too. So because of the Democrats' anxiety, it's the state's GOP has gotten energized now. So there you go. Anyway, all right. There's also a report, by the way, that USAID, remember that USAID system that was supposed to like help promote America, or at least that was its original intent, was to help promote America. Basically all of that wonderful stuff that USAID was supposed to be doing in terms of that foreign aid to help promote America. Well, they really are promoting America. Apparently, according to reports, USAID shipped 11,000 viral samples to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, wait a minute. I thought USAID was supposed to be promoting American exceptionalism and providing aid, not sending viral samples or virus samples. Yeah. Apparently, USAID collected 11,000 viral samples and shipped them off to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The very same lab that likely gifted the world of COVID-19. So USAID worked with the State Department at the time, which is the agency that inspected the Wuhan Institute of Virology and found that the lab didn't even meet the minimum biosafety standards that any sane person would expect. Yeah, but this was no barrier to sending off the viruses. Yeah, there's a reason why USAID got shut down. I mean, honestly, there's a reason for it. It's because, again, government demonstrates that they are horrible in doing anything what they're doing. So there's also plenty of evidence, of course, that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was engaged in biowarfare research. They were working closely with the People's Liberation Army, while the armed forces often do bioweapons research to prepare for the possibility of adversaries using illegal weapons. They also are probably doing it so that, again, I kind of point out, I think they were doing it for other reasons. But anyway. So there you go. USAID, man. I'm telling you, those were some bad folks. I don't know what they were doing, but why do they need to send all those virus samples to the lab? Well, here's a positive turnabout. How many times have we said that, hey, for an example, in a rape case, how many rape cases have we seen where people have brought charges? And by people, I mean women in particular, in this particular case, they've brought charges against men who honestly have done nothing but maybe talk to that person or whatever. They brought charges that were found to be false. Well, the U.S. Army is finally doing something about it that I actually think should be done in the civilian sector as well. So here, according to commondefense.com, U.S. Army updates misconduct investigation rules and adds penalties for false accusations. This is a positive, people. In a significant shift, this from the piece, in a significant shift aimed at refining accountability and investigative procedures, the U.S. Army has updated its regulation on misconduct investigations. The June update to Army Regulation 15-6 includes a series of reforms to how allegations of misconduct are handled. with the intent to streamline investigations, ensure fairness for the accused, and discourage, and this is the key, discourage the misuse of the reporting process through false accusations. So the new rules affect the Army's longstanding 15-6 process, which governs the investigations of a wide range of military misconduct. These offenses include the misuse of government resources, hazing, sexual harassment, toxic leadership, adultery, fraternization, cruelty and maltreatment of subordinates, and violations of lawful orders and regulations. Among the most notable charges is the introduction of a credibility review at the outset of the complaint process. This particular new requirement precedes the traditional three-phase approach to investigations, which includes preliminary inquiries, administrative investigations, and boards of officers. Officials handling complaints are now required to first determine if there is sufficient credible information to warrant further investigations. In practical terms, this means that not every complaint will automatically trigger a formal 15-6 investigation. Army officials hope that this change will reduce the overall number of investigations, especially in cases lacking evidence or involving routine interpersonal conflicts better handled through other avenues. So there you go. There you go. So previously, once a complaint was filed, the accused soldier's personnel records could be flagged, which is a term that denotes administrative actions like suspensions of promotions, awards, or favorable assignments. Under the new rules, accused soldiers will not have their records flagged during the initial credibility assessment phase. And this is kind of like when a police department starts an investigation, they get an allegation, they start the investigation, they determine whether or not it is unfounded, and they drop the charges, if there were any charges filed in the first place. So this is actually, in this particular case, this particular adjustment seeks to protect service members from premature professional consequences before the allegation is found to have merit. It's about damn time that they're starting to actually get to the point where you are innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. So, yeah, there you go. I think that's a really good step forward, and I honestly think that it should be done. It should be done as well in the civilian sector for all of that. So there you go. Alrighty, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are there, signed up and signed in, search up American Perspective, get to the channel, and once you get to the channel, hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up, or if you really want to, a thumbs down across the board at all of my outlets, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and of course the previously mentioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow is Saturday, 1 hour later, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.